Committee recognizes Assemblymember Garcia, who is here to present AB168 on behalf of Assemblymember Eggman. Welcome, Assemblymember Garcia. We are ready whenever you are.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Chairman, members. Women are paid less than men, and women of color are paid even less than their white male counterparts for doing the same work. Whereas yet the work that women do is historically undervalued. In fact, the second half of that sentence is often thrown back as a defense of systemic undercompensation. Women tend to choose professions that pay less than those that are predominantly male. That's not the answer. It's a stark proof that professions where women predominate are undervalued precisely because they are seen as women's work. The systemic undercompensation of women is compounded by the use of historic salary information in determining the basis of negotiation for women seeking new work. If you're historically underpaid, using salary history as the baseline just perpetuates the inequity. With that, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, Mr. Chairman and committee members, and thank you for listening to my testimony today. I'm here because I'm really concerned with this issue. I think it affects a lot of families and women, especially women of color. I've been on a journey since 2012 trying to answer the question of how long is it going to take for a woman to prove that she deserves equal pay. I've heard a lot of answers to that question, like women don't work long enough in their field, yet I worked over 20 years in my field. Women don't get high enough degrees, and yet I have 2 master's degrees. And I've also heard maybe that women don't study the right things. Maybe they don't study STEM fields, and yet here I am, a mathematician, who found out that all her male counterparts were making more than she was. I know the answer to why. It wasn't education, experience, or seniority. It had to do with prior pay. Fresno County Superintendent of Schools, under the direction of Jim Jovino, used my prior salary to set my pay. And even though I had theoretically done everything right, I still had to be penalized in my pay. A long time ago, women who were intelligent, talented, hardworking women of color, they got men into space. And these women did this in spite of the fact that they had to sit on the back of the bus and use different restrooms. It's horrible that here a woman of color sits before you in 2017 still fighting for equal pay. Of all the money that I've lost, I've not seen 1 cent, and the Fresno County Superintendent of Schools has done everything to make the litigation even longer. People talk about frivolous lawsuits, and yet here I am almost 5 years later still trying to fight for the pay discrimination that I experienced for almost 7 years. We have made progress, but we have still a lot of work to do, and I just hope that you would support AB 168 and close the wage gap purposefully and preventatively, and that we can take away the burden of low wages that women have. Thank you.
Thank you. I know that you came before this committee last year and also testified. Thank you again for continuing your advocacy and testifying on these issues. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to add on in support? Please come forward. Anyone wishing to add on in support, name, affiliation, position.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Tristan Brown with the California Federation of Teachers. We apologize for a late letter of support.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Laura Eberly, YWCA, San Francisco and Marin, in strong support.
Thank you.
Jennifer Harms, the National Association of Social Work, the California chapter, in support.
Thank you.
Ashley Martinez on behalf of SEIU Local 1000 in support.
Thank you. Anyone else adding on in support? Seeing none, any opposition, please come forward. Please proceed.
Mr. Chair and committee members, Jennifer Barrera on behalf of the California Chamber of Commerce, and we are in opposition to AB 168. We totally support equal pay for equal women. Actually, we support equal pay for substantially similar work, which is why we supported SB 358. And we think the fundamental issue is making sure that women who perform substantially similar duties are paid the same compensation at the time they're hired, which is what SB SB 358 ensures. SB 168 specifies that you cannot ask for prior salary, prior compensation history, you have to disclose pay scales, etc. We think that those issues were dealt with last year with AB 1676 when we negotiated with then Assemblymember Campos to make sure that prior salary cannot be the sole basis for a compensation decision, which is now existing law, and it just went into effect on January 1st. We believe that we should give that legislation that was just passed and implemented a chance to work to make sure that it is having the impact that we hope it has before we go and start implementing additional issues with regards to prior salary. Despite the fact that prior salary, I 100% agree, has been used to perpetuate wage discrimination for women when it is the sole basis for the consideration for compensation, it actually can be used to the benefit of the employee as well. Oftentimes employers don't have an accurate reflection of what the market data is for that prior position and may have unrealistic expectations. By asking for prior compensation, they actually have a better understanding of what the position is valued at, what they should value it at, and likewise with regards to employees who may have an unrealistic expectation of what the employer can provide. So again, we are 100% in support of equal pay for equal positions, substantially similar work. We just don't think this achieves it, and we also do believe that minor violations that don't result in injury to the employee, such as not disclosing a pay scale, but yet at the same time ultimately paying the employee what they should be paid equal compensation, will result in litigation under the Private Attorney General Act, and we're concerned with that as well. So for those reasons, we are opposed.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to add on in opposition?
Tricia Zulik with California Society of Human Resource Management. Although we are for equal pay, especially for minorities and all women, we do oppose this bill.
Thank you.
Michelle Reyes on behalf of the California Travel Association in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to add on in opposition? Seeing none, we'll turn to the committee for questions. Seeing no questions, is there a motion? I'll second it. This bill enjoys an aye recommendation. Would you like to close?
Yes, thank you. I know that the author is committed to work on the litigation piece that there's concerns about. While there was progress that was done last year with Ms. Campos's bill, this is still a priority for the Women's Caucus, and we do feel that this is an important step to make sure it doesn't take us another 5 decades to close the gap, especially for women of color. If you're a Latina, we're earning about 45 cents to the dollar of our white male counterpart. And so I do appreciate the work that's been done on SB 358, and the opposition did work with us on that, and I would acknowledge that. But I do think that we need to keep moving forward. States like Massachusetts, New York, and the city of Philadelphia have passed the same exact bill already. With that, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Motion is due pass to appropriations. Thurman?
Aye.
Thurman, aye. Flora?
No.
Flora, no. Chu? Harper?
No.
Harper, no. Jones Sawyer?
Aye.
Jones Sawyer, aye. Calra? McCarty?
Aye.
McCarty, aye. That bill's on call.
Bill is on call. It needs one more vote.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Committee welcomes Assemblymember Stone, who is here to present AB 1556. Welcome, sir. We are ready when you are.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I've watched a little bit of your committee. I think my job here today is to bring a little easier question to you. But now that I've said that, I know that that probably sets us up for another hour of debate on this measure. But that's being what it is. That's of debate. I will not take that
Please
long.
Continue.
AB 1556 looks at the Fair Employment and Housing Act, and specifically at the pregnancy-related provisions of that act. California, we've been taking steps in the legislature to ensure that the language that we use is appropriate for all of those who are coming under the purview of that rule. And in this day and age, given the number of transgender, non-binary individuals who we do need to recognize and respect their position, specific language that refers to genders may be inappropriate in that context. And so we have put forward some cleanup language to take some of that those gender references out of the FEHA language. I do recognize the analysis which points out that there are other parts of FEHA that do have still gender provisions in them, and we're happy to look at those and see if that is something that we're also interested in. We'd started off just looking at the pregnancy-related provisions, but happy to take a look at that. And I have Joe Michaels from the Equality California here to speak in support, and I ask for your aye votes.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Joe Michael for Equality California. We're proud to be the sponsor of this bill, and we thank the Assembly member for bringing it forward. As the Assembly member explained, under many of the pregnancy-related employment protections in FEHA, there are references to terms like female, she, and her, even when gender-neutral terms such as person or employee would be more appropriate. Statutory provisions in California's code should be inclusive in general so that all residents of our state know that they are protected, particularly for residents who are intersex, transgender, or gender nonconforming or non-binary. This is particularly important if they happen to be a person who also is pregnant or experiences pregnancy-related conditions or complications during their employment. So it's important to ensure that these protections are clear and that they are afforded to everyone. I would also like to state the support of Transgender Law Center for this bill because they were not able to be here today, and respectfully urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to add on in support?
Marika Yoshihara with the California Employment Lawyers Association in support.
Thank you. Others wishing to add on in support? Seeing none, is there any opposition? Any opposition? Seeing none, we return to committee. Second. We have a motion and a second. Questions from committee members? Seeing none, this bill enjoys an aye recommendation. Please call the roll. Oh, I'm sorry. Would you like to close?
I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Motion is due pass to appropriations. Thurman?
Aye.
Thurman, aye. Flora?
Aye.
Flora, aye. Chu? Harper?
No.
Harper, no. Jones Sawyer?
Aye.
Jones Sawyer, aye. Calra? McCarty? McCarty, aye. That bill is out.
That bill is out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Committee welcomes Assemblymember Caballero, who is here to present AB 1376. Welcome, Assemblymember. We are ready when you are.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members.